The lecture hall hummed with the professor's voice. He spoke of wars, of shattered dynasties, of blood and glory. Then a snore ripped through the rhythm. The professor's words died mid-sentence. He turned, face blank as stone, and his gaze cut like a blade. Every head swiveled to the back corner. There, a tall young man slumped over his desk, dead to the world. His name was Kaelan. A student whispered, "What's wrong with him lately?" Every day he's like a man possessed. His roommate sighed night after night. He wakes up screaming, soaked in cold sweat. The professor heard it all. He said nothing. He just tapped the lectern. The muffled sound signaled the lecture to resume. But in Kaelan's ears, that tap deepened into the thud of war drums. He was dreaming again. Battle cries tangled with the shriek of steel. The reek of blood flooded his nose and mouth. The dream sharpened from blur to brutal clarity. His hands locked in a death grip around a heavy blade. Over 1.5 meters long, its thick spine gleamed with cold frost. Crushing weight tore at every fiber of his arms. He poured every ounce of strength into steadying the hilt, veins bulging along his forearms. A sharp whistle sliced the air to his side. Kaelan bellowed. His core torqued violently. The heavy blade screamed sideways in a brutal arc. The edge split the air with a low, keening wail. The attacker scrambled to parry. Clang! The long sword shattered, shards bursting outward. The heavy blade never slowed. It ripped the head clean from the neck. The headless corpse stood frozen. A geyser of blood erupted from the stump, splashing hot across Kaelan's face. He had no time to breathe. Behind him, a whisper of wind. Faint, serpentine, cold as the grave. The skin on Kaelan's back tightened. Goosebumps exploded. He twisted aside without thought. A dagger slipped soundlessly past his right ribs. The ghost of perfume arrived, but the wraith-like figure had already flickered to his left. Too fast. Inhuman. The heavy blade was too slow. As he hauled it around, the dagger already kissed his throat. An icy, piercing agony bit into the side of his neck. The sensation of the edge-parting flesh was obscenely vivid. Blood gushed from the wound, hot and wet, streaming down his neck. A drowning sensation seized his windpipe. The last image seared into his mind. A slender, graceful silhouette, retreating with a lilting laugh. The sound was bright as silver bells shattered across a field of slaughter. Kaelan's roar erupted from the depths of fury. "You demon woman! I'll kill you one day!" The words had barely left his mouth when his eyes snapped open. Silence. On the lectern, the professor stared at him, expressionless. Dozens of eyes converged from all directions, eerie and silent. The ghost of a slit throat still ached with cold, yet the classroom was bright, quiet, a separate world. The stench of blood had faded to chalk dust. The violent dissonance sent a wave of vertigo through him. The professor's voice came frost, dry. "How exactly were you planning to kill that demon woman?" Elaborate. An explosion of laughter. Kaelan's mind blanked with a roar, blood rushing to his face. The burn of public humiliation sliced sharper than any dagger. The professor laid down the verdict. "Go stand by the door and clear your head." Kaelan didn't go to the punishment spot. He walked straight out of the campus gates, his expression dark enough to drip venom. The nightmares had plagued him for half a month. Everyone was real enough to break a man. The tearing resistance of muscle against the heavy blade, the ice, bone bite of the dagger, the sickening warmth of spraying blood, each sensation was terrifyingly vivid. His nerves still twitched when he woke. If this kept up, his body would collapse. He saw a doctor. The doctor said he'd been bewitched by video games and web novels. Kaelan knew that wasn't true. The novel he'd been writing had died months ago. He'd even deleted the app. He worked out every day, played sports, was a regular at the archery club. A perfectly healthy life. Yet the nightmares refused to release him. Dejected, he turned into an alley off the student street. At the end, a small shop stood open. A black plaque above the door bore seals, script characters, Chaos House. A sign beside it read, Fortune-telling. Dream interpretation. The place had opened just 3 days ago. The owner was a woman, stunningly beautiful, with short hair. Her eyes were closed. Her stillness was that of a silent statue. Now she sat with her eyes shut, fingers unhurriedly arranging cards on the table, her movements steady to the point of uncanny. Kaelan stood in the doorway and spoke abruptly. Who are you putting on the blind act for when no one's around? Without raising her head, she replied, What if I really am blind? You don't have a cane. I don't need one. Our tone was indifferent, as if stating the weather. She paused, then continued. Yesterday, you called me crazy. Today, you're back. Finally realized you're the one who's sick, Kaelan choked. He had indeed cursed her out yesterday. She claimed to offer dream therapy. It reeked of charlatan. You mentioned entering dreams. How does that work? He cut straight to the point. The woman set down her cards. A normal lucid dream yields whatever outcome you desire. But all these days, you can only control your own actions, not the dream's ending. Every time things go contrary to your will, am I right? Kaelan was silent for a beat. She was dead accurate. He could swing his blade, dodge, even counterattack, but it always ended with his throat being slit. Yes, he admitted, his voice dry. I can't control it. The woman finally tilted her head slightly. Her face, with its closed eyelids, turned toward him like a statue, both serene and demonic. You are trapped in a cycle of nightmares because some unfinished thought lingers within the dream. Fulfill that thought, and you can transcend. Her voice was calm. So, what outcome do you wish to achieve? Defeat a particular foe. Slaughter everyone present. Or simply escape the battle. No matter how hard, it must be your true desire. Otherwise, it's pointless. What outcome did he want? The image of that dark, clad figure seared through Kaelan's mind. The words tore from his throat. Kill that demon woman, obviously. The woman's perpetually composed expression twitched almost imperceptibly. What problem? No, she recovered, her voice smooth. The goal is yours. I can't substitute for it. I just need you to confirm your deepest intention, to know what you must do and how to end it. If you can't help me, and I still can't beat the demon woman inside the dream, I just be marching to my death. She slid 3 arranged cards toward him. Draw 3. What are these? The first grants you an ability within the dream, aiding you in achieving your desire. A cheat power. It is a dream. Anomalies are nothing strange. What about the second? It determines your starting location. You won't fall directly into the worst danger. It gives you time to prepare. The third, a clue to your goal. Such as who she truly is and how to find her, Kaelan frowned. If it's a clue, why not just tell me directly? Because even I don't know what it is. I can only interpret based on the card you draw, consider it a form of divination. Kaelan asked no more. He reached out and drew 3 cards at random, flipping them over. The first bore the image of a gigantic eye, a vague human silhouette subtly outlined in the blurred background. The second displayed a round jade pendant carved with dragons, set against a backdrop of resplendent gold, hinting at palace halls and a dragon throne. The third was pure ink, black, with faint glimmers of gold seeping through, as if a divine Buddha-like face lurked within, yet it remained indistinct, unreadable. The woman fell silent, and the silence stretched long. Kaelan waited, impatience rising. Well? What do they mean? She seemed to snap back. Slowly, she said, this first card is the eye behind. It can slightly enhance your vision, but most critically, it allows you to see what lies behind you. Without warning, her hand shot up. Kaelan never saw the motion. The eye card was already pressed against his forehead. The next instant, the world spun. Kaelan vanished without a trace, as if he had never existed. The woman picked up the final card, the one of pure black. She sat in stillness for a long while, then murmured under her breath, I never imagined. He would actually draw the root of my origin. She slowly opened her eyes. Within those black pupils stretched endless desolation and icy death, still as the dead of night. Kill the demon woman. Yes. I'll be waiting. The setting sun bled crimson. Kaelan snapped back from a vicious vertigo. The stench of blood slammed into his sinuses like a clenched fist. Before him lay a lone village, butchered clean. Wild crows wheeled overhead, their harsh cries braided into the lingering screams of the dying, tearing the twilight into a hellscape. Moments ago, he had been sitting in a sunlit classroom. Now, he was wrenched into this blood-soaked dusk. Splintered doors and window frames lay strewn across the ground. Every house reeked of gore. Corpses slumped crookedly in doorways and beneath windows. A few naked female bodies had been tossed aside like discarded dolls. Farther off, men in black were still smashing down doors and dragging out the survivors. A woman was hauled into the open, her torn clothes revealing savage wounds. The men around her howled with laughter. This was the safe place. Right then a black-clad man leading an ox laden with blood-stained spoils barked impatiently, "Sun's nearly down. Kill them all. Leave no loose ends." Another raised his butcher blade, its edge already aimed at a child nearby. Something inside Kaelan's skull snapped. A thick branch. He tore it from the tree line. Then he hurled himself forward, a human firebomb. The branch whistled down, batting the descending blade wide. He reversed, cracked it solid across the man's face. Blood and spittle sprayed. Kaelan seized the child's hand and bolted. He'd never outrun them. His mind tracked every leer, every arc of steel. A long knife sliced toward the back of his neck. He twisted aside, brought the branch up to block. It split with a dry snap. The blade grazed his face, opening a hot line from cheekbone to jaw. In that same breath, another knife plunged into the child's back. A ribbon of crimson tore free and lashed across half of Kaelan's face. A white roar swallowed his brain. Dead? In his hands. Just like that. This village held no living souls. His throat shredded into a bestial scream. Fuck you. He swung the broken branch like a madman at the black-clad figures. One of them sneered. So this bumpkin had never even trained. The man he'd cracked in the skull stepped forward, cold, died. He sidestepped the wild swings with ease. He angled his long knife in a graceful horizontal slash at Kaelan's throat. No dodging. No escape. So this was the taste of death. The blade's wind kissed his skin. The smell of death cold as iron. Then a clang. The shriek of deflected steel split the air. The long knife went spinning. Hoofbeats drummed closer, a war beat. Before the horse even arrived, a streak of crimson launched from the saddle. Kaelan saw nothing clearly. Only light. Sword light. A red brilliance flashed. Screams detonated all at once. Not one cry, but many, stacked into the same beat, like harp strings severed in one stroke. Blood mist sprayed in a perfect ring. The corpses hadn't yet toppled, but the piercing hum of torn air arrived a heartbeat late. Thud! 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 The black-clad bodies crumpled, every last one. Only then the gray, maned horse thundered to a halt. The woman in red twisted in the air, settled lightly back into the saddle. High ponytail. Crimson's gabarded longsword. Sharp eyes cold as winter lightning. Kaelan's body locked rigid. A trapped breath shuddered out at last. So martial prowess was real. It truly existed. Eryndra surveyed the carnage. A flicker of sorrow passed her gaze. Her murmur a guttering candle. If I had only arrived a moment sooner. Kaelan heaved. Rage burned in his chest, nearly eclipsing the tearing pain of his wounds. His voice raw. Who are these bastards? Eryndra shook her head. A long pause. She spoke quietly. I'm merely passing through, though I may have a lead. First tell me, does the road to Luo Manor go this way? Kaelan shook his head, lost. He knew nothing of any Luo Manor. His mind a furnace of fire and blood. Eryndra didn't press. She guided her horse around the village entrance. Her gaze fell on the stone marker, carved with the words, Zhao Village. Her brow furrowed. Then they came here. But why tip their hands so recklessly? She dismounted, crouched to search. Efficient movements. She rifled through collars, sleeves, pockets. Only a few scraps of silver. No insignia, no seals. Perfectly sterile. 0 distinguishing marks. Eryndra straightened. She turned to Kaelan. Do you have any kin left? He shook his head again. I'm headed to Luo Manor on business. You may as well come with me. Her tone even. The aftermath here can be handled by the manor. You can find work, a place to settle. In this chaotic age, without martial training, you'll be preyed upon. Luo Manor is a respected house of the Xia Empire. If you can learn even a single technique, you might have a chance at vengeance. Kaelan blurted, You're so powerful, sister. Could I learn from you? Sister. Eryndra laughed, shaking her head firmly. I wonder the Jiang who. I have no means to take a disciple. Luo Manor suits you. I'll take you there. They may show me some courtesy. He didn't insist. May I ask the lady's name? Eryndra. She glanced at him. You speak like an educated man. What's your name? Kaelan. The surname coincidentally matched the village Zhao. Eryndra's eyes flickered. She said nothing more. She reached out and pulled. Kaelan felt his body go weightless. Then he was on the horse, seated behind her. Her slender, straight back inches away. Faint body heat seeped through the fabric, laced with a cold, subtle fragrance. Kaelan clamped his jaw, gripped the saddle. The awkwardness of a lifelong bachelor, overwhelmed by something far more savage. The horse broke into a run. It tore through the thin snow. The wind became a blade. No metaphor. The early winter gale, fat with half-frozen snow, raked exposed skin like countless tiny knives. The gash on Kaelan's face ripped open again. Fresh blood streaked down his jaw. He wiped. His palm came away sticky and hot. Every jolt a dull punch to his lower back. Muscles battered, ground against the saddle. The wound throbbed with each shock, like a red, hot needle twisting in the meat. He ground his molars until the roots ached. A sudden gust blasted over them. Eryndra's long hair whipped back. The ends lashed softly across his cheek. Feather-light, soft, mingled with that clean fragrance. It cut through the reek of blood and wind with shocking clarity. It tickled. Kaelan stared at his blood-drenched hands. A cold current rippled through him. Could a dream hurt this much? Wind screamed. Her hair brushed his skin. His wound pulsed. The saddle rubbed the insides of his thighs raw. Every sense shrieked, "This is real." His fingertips trembled. If this wasn't a dream, the world ahead darkened. Vast fields stretched away. A thin crust of snow covered the furrows, untended. At their edge, a sprawling manor emerged against the gray sky. Walls rearing over 10 feet high, capped with gray tiles, stretching endlessly left and right like a cold dam cutting off the light. A stone archway stood across the main road. The gilded character's Luo Manor gleamed coldly in the snow-reflected light. Its shadow swallowed the ground several yards ahead. Eryndra slowed. She gazed at the guard's spear straight before the gate. A soft breath. It seems this manor is still unharmed. The manor guard stepped forward. Eryndra reined in, cupped her fists. Kindly inform Lord Luo that Eryndra of Sunset Hill Manor has come to pay a visit. Her voice soft, but it carried like a deep bell, rolling far through the cold air. From inside, a booming laugh. What wind has blown Lady Yu to our humble gates? Truly an honor. Open the doors. Welcome our guest. The main gates swung wide. A middle-aged man with a long beard strode out, face wreathed in smiles. Just as they say, at dusk, the red plume of the setting sun paints the evening clouds. The praise of the Jiang, who is well deserved. Kaelan couldn't hold back. He twisted in the saddle and retched. Dozens of miles of punishing horseback had tied his guts into knots. Now the strings snapped. Eryndra's mouth twitched. She helped Kaelan down, cupped her fists. Red Plume greets Lord Luo. I've come with confidential matters. This young man is connected. Lord Luo's gaze slid over Kaelan. His smile never wavered. Please come in. Inside the main hall, servants dismissed. A young man in fine silks remained. Handsome, refined features. Lord Luo gestured with a smile. My worthless son, Zhenwu. Valen cupped his fists with practiced grace. I have long heard of Fairy Yu's renown. Eryndra cut through. I have unconfirmed intelligence. The blood god cult may strike your manor. The reason unknown. Lord Luo froze. Some days past, I was in the Beimeng Mountains. I chanced to overhear cultists Lu stung among themselves. They were too many. Their leader may have been present. I couldn't seize anyone. In any case, I came to warn you. I hope the manor lord will be vigilant. The Beimeng Mountains. Nearly 1,000 lie from here. Lord Luo's expression grew thoughtful. His gaze lingered. Then he smiled again. We have no dealings with the blood god cult. The fairy must be mistaken. Still, traveling 1,000 li to bring us word, we appreciate the gesture. Eryndra pointed at Kaelan. On the way here, I passed through Zhao village. The villagers butchered. This young brother is the sole survivor. I saved him myself. Consider him corroboration. Father and son changed color. Did the fairy cross blades with them? Can you confirm their origins? Crude methods. No solid foundation. Most likely bandits rallied under the blood god cult. She paused. As for why they'd slaughter a village and alert everyone, I haven't figured that out either. Kaelan sat to the side, pale green-faced, but his fists clenched tight. The blood god cult. Searing rage flooded back, hotter than the gash across his face. Lord Luo pondered, clasped his fists. Many thanks to the fairy for her warning from 1,000 lie away. Should anything arise, we will guard against it. It grows late. We dare not delay you further. The dismissal sharp as a blade. Eryndra didn't argue. She nodded, rose. Farewell. Kaelan watched the red-clad figure dissolve into the sunset. Hoof beats faded, each one a hammer blow to his heart. A needle, sharp cold, crept up his spine. A tingle sparked at the back of his head. His hearing snapped taut. Then the low voices of the Luo father and son slithered into his ears, venomous and soft as snakes. Valen's hand clenched in the dusk, knuckles cracking. He whispered, Father, why let her go? If we'd offered hospitality, perhaps we could have. Lord Luo's voice scraped like iron on stone. Idiot. Eryndra stands at the 8th tier of the profound gate, 5th on the dragon ascendant list. She's a tempest. I cannot say I'd best her. You dare scheme against her? If it failed, do you have any idea the consequences? Valen tried again. We could lure her into a secret chamber, use the mechanisms. His father's roar cut him off. You understand nothing. From the moment she entered, her hand never left her sword hilt. Her eyes and ears never stopped scanning. That's instinct, hammered out in blood. You think someone like that follows you into gods? Nowhere. Kaelan held his breath. His heart slammed against his ribs, bone, jarring thuds. He locked his body still. Back straight, fingers curling silently into his sleeves. Lord Luo's voice turned cold, a knife scraping bone. Women who earn their name in the Jianghu. The more beautiful, the harder to prey upon. The men who desire them outnumber the men you've ever met. They've walked through every wicked scheme the heart can conjure. That she still roams free, not someone's plaything, that alone is proof. A pause. The voice sank deeper. She left annoyed, thinking us merely discourteous. That's a good thing. If she'd lingered and somehow discovered that the men who butchered Zhao village were sent by you, you'd learn what endless trouble means. Kaelan's pupils shrank to pinpricks. Blood roared into his skull. A shrieking hum exploded in his ears, like 1,000 steel needles driven into his temples. His nails bit into his palms, pierced skin. The smell of blood seeped through his fingers. Pain! It clenched his throat, but he swallowed the surge of nausea. Valen ground his teeth, voice dripping venom. It's that village's own fault, not knowing their place. So what if we played with one of their peasant girls? They came at us with hoes. If we hadn't taught them a lesson, they'd think us weak. And Eryndra, rushing to save someone, didn't investigate thoroughly. She assumed they were cultist bandits. The blame falls neatly onto the blood god cult. Valen glanced at the door. He drew a finger across his throat. Kaelan had his back to them, but he saw the gesture clearly. A rusty blade drawn across his throat. Lord Luo shook his head. No, if Eryndra happened to drop by on a whim later and he was gone, that wouldn't be easy to explain. Consider it a favor to her. Take him in as an outer disciple and let him rot there? None in the manor know the truth. He was with her when she killed everyone you sent. What could he possibly piece together? Valen's resentment bubbled. Father, you're too wary of Eryndra. I haven't even spoken of avenging my men that she killed. You are known because of the Luo family. She is the opposite. Because of Eryndra, the world even knows there's a Sunset Hill manor. Lord Luo sighed, a strange amusement creeping into his voice. If you really want her, perhaps you could start by targeting her lowly origins. But as for the woman herself, behave. Footsteps approached. Kaelan forced the surging bloody taste and violence back down into his chest. In a split second, his face rearranged. The clenched jaw slack. The tight lips softened. Crimson crushed back. Clean, blank vacancy. He turned, a guileless smile stuck to his face like a mask. Yes? Sister, you really is beautiful. Lord Luo laughed heartily and clapped him on the shoulder. The palm was warm, avuncular. The setting sun threw long shadows behind the Luo father and son, stretching black across the ground like two skin-clad demons. Kaelan's fist in his sleeve bulged with blue veins, knuckles ghosts. White, That night, Kaelan was assigned to the small courtyard quarters of the outer sect's senior disciple, Lowen. The courtyard wasn't large. Grey bricks, dark tiles, moonlight settling like a layer of thin frost. Kaelan stood beyond the threshold, one half of his face pale in the moonlight, the other hidden in shadow. He stepped forward, his foot coming down on the grey brick with a muffled thud. As if something else, too, was being pinned down hard in that step. The gate slammed shut at his back. Lowen turned, face cold, voice thin and simpering. "You're Kaelan. Big brute. Got some strength in you." Kaelan gave an honest, simple grin. "Yes. Just arrived." The family head said to learn the rules from senior brother first. "There are no rules." Lowen looked him up and down. "I hear Eryndra brought you to the estate. Why not cling to her thigh and beg to be her disciple? Maybe." "I'm stupid. That must be it." Lowen sneered. "At your age, 18, 19, starting to train. What the hell could you possibly learn? Eryndra's your age and already famous across the land. You're fit for nothing but guard, dog tricks to earn your keep." Kaelan stood wooden, silent. "The human body has 9 profound gates. Break them, and you glimpse the 3 secret treasures. Open those, and you enter the realm of heaven and man." Lowen said it like he was showing off. "Eryndra and our master are both at the 8th gate. Who doesn't show them respect wherever they go? The master is also at the 8th. Kaelan's lips tightened almost imperceptibly. That old and the same level as Eryndra. No wonder he was so wary. "And you, senior brother," Lowen puffed his chest. "By luck, I have already broken the 1st heaven." Kaelan said nothing. Lowen saw no fawning, no flattery. He scoffed inwardly. What did an outsider know of the weight of a single profound gate? He'd cultivated a low-grade art to break that gate at 16. No small feat. Let this boy grind away for 10 years and still be stuck at the threshold. Then he'd know how laughable today's arrogance was. "Night's here." "Sleep?" Lowen stretched, flicking a hand toward a small hut outside the courtyard. "That room's been cleared. You'll stay there tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'll take you to get your clothes and daily supplies." "Or did you want to start martial training tonight? Or sleep in my room?" Kaelan forced a smile and withdrew. The shed was cramped. The plank bed icy, bone cold. The air thick with years of must and the damp reek of rotting wood. It seeped into the lungs, thread by thread, as if the words living under another's roof had taken physical form and pressed down heavy on his chest. He leaned against the bed, the smile gone from his face. Sleep. If this was a dream, what happened if he went to sleep inside the dream? Would he stay trapped in this nightmare or wake straight back into the real world? Which was the dream, which the reality? He drew a deep breath and shut his eyes. The boards bit into his bones. Cold crept from his spine into his limbs. He curled up, tossed and turned for a long while, until the exhaustion piled up over recent days dragged him into the dark. He slept. Dreamless. It was the first truly dreamless sleep Kaelan had had in over half a month, deep and heavy. He would have given anything not to have it. Bang! A shriek tore through the night. Kaelan snapped upright. His eardrums rang with waves of screams and war cries. Outside the window, flames danced wild, scarlet shadows, twisting and writhing on the paper pane like man-eating demons. The air scorched his throat. Every breath carried the stench of burning and blood. Spare not a single chicken or dog. The 4 words cut through the air, chilling him to the marrow. Kaelan's face went white. Every hair stood rigid. A contraction of his pores shot a needle, sting from his nape down to his tailbone. Here he could sleep. Here sleep brought no dreams. Here he still woke. This wasn't some damn dream to walk into. This was crossing over. The difference between crossing over and a dream was one thing. If you were killed, you were dead. In the distance, the master's furious roar, shredded and broken amid the chaos of flames and clashing metal. Scarlet Phoenix Venerable. You are 4 symbols sect, not the blood god cult. The words crashed against his ears and were swallowed instantly by the shriek of blades and the thunder of collapsing buildings. Kaelan stood frozen. Eryndra had left at dusk. The intelligence she'd received was only attack. She had never imagined annihilation. By now she was likely in some nearby town, deep asleep. No one was coming to be the hero. Flames licked the eaves. The temperature in the shed spiked. Light flickering through the door cracks flashed bright and dark, like a heavy, irreversible verdict, slashing at his heart blow by blow. Kaelan clenched his fists, knuckles white. The courtyard's flames seared the night sky into a crimson hell. Kaelan kicked the wooden door off its hinges, burst out, and in the same motion, snatched a single-edged blade from the rack in the yard. Lowen rushed out at the same instant. Their eyes met, then both snapped toward the direction Vaylin had fled. Vaylin dragged his wounded leg. A handful of loyal guards stumbled after him in blind panic. Behind them, figures in blood, drenched robes and black patterns swooped like hawks. Mocking laughter ripped through the night. "Where do you think you're running, Luo pup?" The lead black-clad attacker dove from the air, his palm blazing with sticky crimson light, driving straight for Vaylin's spine. Vaylin yanked a guard and shoved him backward. The blood light detonated. The guard's body dissolved into pulp, his scream dying in his throat. Vaylin didn't look back. He hauled his buckling leg onward, charging straight for Kaelan and Lowen. Cold steel whistled through the air. Vaylin twisted too late and shrieked as a blade bit into his thigh, sending him crashing to the ground. "You broke through the 3 profound gates like this," the blood god cult disciple laughed, raising his sword high. The blade was about to fall, a soft sword, hum drifted through the night. At first, it was barely there, thin as a thread, like a stream murmuring. In the space of a breath, it swelled into a roaring tide, crashing against eardrums, vibrating skulls. The cultist's head snapped up in horror. Sword, light cascaded from the heavens, like poured moonlight. It was endless as spring floods, tender as a lover's fingers brushing hair. The raging flames, dimmed under its pressure, gentled like beasts tamed by the moon. But something inside, that tenderness, froze the marrow. The cultist backpedaled desperately, but his subordinates had already dropped dead. Every corpse wore a soft, peaceful smile. A figure descended, robes floating like an immortal from the moon palace. Backlit, her face was hidden. Only a thick sable cloak and a slender frame were visible. Springwater sword art may have a plain name, but it's still a pleasure to watch. Another voice, sultry and languid, drifted over. Before the words ended, a crimson figure flashed in and flung round objects. The woman beneath the moonlight flicked her sword. The objects thudded to the ground. Human heads. Lord Luo's skull hit the dirt with a sickly, muffled sound. The stench of blood exploded, mingling with mud and char, flooding the nostrils. Vaylin scrabbled backward on his ruined leg like a madman. Scarlet Phoenix Venerable landed. The sacrificial patterns on her red robes writhed in the firelight like living things. A half mask covered her face. The firebird's beak curved over her nose. Below it, red lips curled in a lazy cat playing with my smile. "I didn't expect Chief Tang to rush here under the stars, but you're too late. The old Luo dog is dead. Why drag your sick body into a fight? Go home." Chief Tang covered her mouth and coughed. Beneath the sable cloak, her shoulder blades heaved violently. She coughed a long while before murmuring, "This is the Xia Empire." Footsteps closed in. Blood god cult disciples encircled them. A burly blood-robed man reported grimly, "The Luo household has been exterminated. Only Vaylin remains. My thanks, Hierarch Zu." Scarlet Phoenix Venerable purred. "Chief Tang, sick as you are, a lone sword can't protect the cripple behind you." Chief Tang said nothing. Her sword tip tilted, the air freezing solid. Kaelan abruptly stuck his head out from behind the courtyard gate, his voice pitched high. "Who says she's alone? If Chief Tang holds them off, we'll carry the young master to safety." Lowen's jaw dropped. Every gaze stabbed toward them. Chief Tang glanced back, eyes like autumn pools flickering in the firelight. Kaelan strode forward, hoisted Vaylin up. "Young master, I'll carry you. Leave now." Scarlet Phoenix Venerable lashed out, a red streak tearing through the air. Chief Tang intercepted it with a single stroke. Vaylin, wild with relief, leaned on Kaelan and struggled to his feet. Good, good. I always knew you were simple and loy, a squelch." The long knife punched through his back, through cloth and flesh, shearing muscle, splitting the heart wall. Scalding blood gushed down the blade, over Kaelan's hand. It was sticky, hot, reeking of iron and sweetness. The vibration numbed his palm. Vaylin's eyes bulged. He stared down at the knife in his chest, at the hand gripping it, and finally met Kaelan's eyes. In the firelight, those eyes held no innocence, only the naked savagery of a beast. Scarlet Phoenix, Venerable, and Chief Tang both froze. Kaelan panted and murmured, "This is my initiation pledge to the cult. The Venerable won't let the authorities take me." "Right. Correct." Scarlet Phoenix Venerable purred, her gaze swirling. She shifted to shield him. The knife sank deeper. Valen's throat emitted wet, rattling gasps. Despairing realization flooded his eyes. Chief Tang watched silently, remembering the dead village along the road. When you slaughtered Zhao village, did you ever think of this day? Kaelan's hoarse voice exploded beside Valen's ear. Valen's breath stopped. Chief Tang sighed softly. The weight of this matter is beyond your understanding. You will regret it. Kaelan wrenched the long knife free. A crimson arc lashed through the firelight. He lifted his head and roared from the depths of his chest. The sound crashed into the night sky, echoing long. My mind is clear. What regret could there be? So be it. Chief Tang shook her head. Dare you leave a name? The killer is Kaelan. The news exploded like ice dropped into boiling oil. The Luo family of the Xia Empire was exterminated overnight, not a corpse left intact. This shocked the world for days. The signs of chaos had already appeared, bandits ran rampant, foreign tribes circled like wolves. Yet the Empire's skin still held its shape. The Luo family's rumored ties to the Imperial clan were that skin, and the demonic cult had ripped it open with a single slash. Carved on the blade were 5 words, the killer is Kaelan. Unwanted posters, a name with no cultivation background, was seared into the world's eyes. 1,000 miles away, the Beimang Mountains. Blizzards crushed the peaks into dead, pale silence. The wind was not wind. It was a flensing knife, scraping strip after strip across bare flesh. Kaelan stood on the summit, his thin clothes frozen stiff as iron sheets. His exhaled mist shattered before it could form shape, whisked into tatters by the gale. Frost crusted his stubble, only to be buried under fresh ice. Lowen stood beside him, face equally blank, skin blue, livid under the cold light. After Chief Tang, sick and burdened, had taken Valen's corpse away, Kaelan's initiation pledge had led the blood god cult to bring him back. Lowen, branded an accomplice, was swept along, his whole life ground to dust. His face had been black as thunder the entire journey. Yet the two still walked together. In this frozen waste, they were the only familiar thing to each other. Kaelan didn't feel he had dragged Lowen down. Luo Manor had been annihilated. Without his gambit, Lowen's odds of survival were less than 1 in 10. Lowen knew it too, so he kept his sour face but never strayed from Kaelan's side. The freezing wind made Kaelan squint. He wanted to go home. The thrill of transmigration had long faded, his parents were still on the other side. But days of fitful sleep brought no sign of return. He knew he was truly trapped. To get back, he needed power. The moment he broke through the body's profound gate, he might glimpse a path home. Lowen suddenly spoke, his voice fraying in the wind. You went that far just for demonic sect techniques. Kaelan turned. Lowen's face remained rigid. He shook his head. It was vengeance for the innocents of Zhao village. Self-preservation too. If you hadn't been behind me that day, you'd be dead. Then why give your real name? A false one would have been safer. Kaelan grinned, frost crackling on his stubble. You couldn't tell truth from lie then either. Swap names at random, who'd know me? Lowen choked, turning away. But Kaelan straightened. It was my real name. Damn, skulking is pointless. A real man doesn't hide his name. Kaelan bared his teeth, his breath freezing to mist. Besides, didn't it feel damn good to say it? Lowen stared. Kaelan sighed. Names don't matter anyway. Wanted posters plaster every wall. If the face fits, any name works. Let's just hope Chief Tang's a lousy artist, Lowen sneered. She masters the 4 arts. Her fame spans the Xia Empire, Kaelan shrugged. Then so be it, Lowen let it drop. Aiming high is natural. Just a shame it was the blood god cult who brought us in, not the 4 symbols sect. This lot, their foundation might be shallower than the Luo families. Kaelan didn't care. It's a place to go. The Luos got wiped out anyway. Lowen fell silent. A hairline crack fissured his frozen mask like ice, weary earth. Kaelan fixed him. You've been brooding for days. I didn't wipe out the Luos. Without me shaking things up, you really think you'd be alive? Or does your blind loyalty demand vengeance for Valen? Lowen finally exhaled, his breath a ghost of white. His voice came soft in the dead hush. The 4 symbols sect and the blood god cult did the killing. Not you. Why would I blame you? My life just shattered. The road ahead black. Emotions clogged. I wasn't trying to lash out. I hope you understand. On that word, the snow piled on his shoulders seemed heavier, straining his spine, then easing nearly imperceptibly. Kaelan grunted, frost thickening on his stubble. Do you hate the blood god cult? You were born a Luo. Your parents, Lowen shook his head, snow sifting from his hair. My parents died long ago. I just wonder why wipe out the Luos at all. The hidden door in the mountain crevasse split open beneath the ice. Frigid stone steps spiraled down like a gullet into hell. Wind howled through the gap, ripe with rust, scabbed iron and stale blood. Ice crystals crusted the walls, splintering torchlight into cold shards, like 1,000 dead eyes watching from the dark. Kaelan and Lowen exchanged a look and stepped inside, silent. The cavern opened wide. At its heart, a blood pool churned with dark red slurry. No mystic surge, just a dull mud, boil gurgle. Hundreds of torches scorched the rock red. Their light licked the faces of 100 cultists ringing the pool, eyes closed, lips writhing in slurred prayer. The formation was eerily precise, a circle of human statues nailed in place. On the altar, half of Garvan's face lurked beyond the torchlight. A ghost of a smile hung on his lips. His gaze swept over them, cold as a clerk eyeing fresh cargo. Lowen stepped forward, his voice cutting through the gurgle. I've broken the first profound gate. Garvan's brow twitched. The shadowed eye narrowed. He sized Lowen up like a bonus find. With the Luo family's outer teachings, you pierced the first tier. Yes, impressive. A true talent, Garvan laughed, the lines around his eyes frosty with scrutiny. This winter, the branch must forage often. You will lead a squad, you've earned that. Lowen cupped his fists. My thanks, branch master. He'd been fast, precise. That stepping stone vaulted him from Kaelan's tag-along to squad leader. Garvan saw through it. His plastic smile deepened before he turned to Kaelan. And you, Kaelan inhaled. Rust, clotted blood, stench flooded his lungs like iron filings. I've never trained martial arts. Garvan smiled, openly mocking now. Your movements, your power release, any trained eye can see it. So what else can you do? Read. Do sums, can I formally join the cult and learn the sacred arts? Garvan's eyes slid fully shut. The torches crackled. The blood pools gurgle, scraped against the silence. Garvan stayed quiet, so long Lowen began shifting his feet. Then he spoke slowly. Not just our blood god cult, any art branded demonic by the world progresses swift. But the training is agony and deviation comes easy. I'm prepared. What good is preparation? Garvan's voice spiked, then dropped to a silken sneer. Without faith in the god, what shields you from agony? Who wards off deviation? You don't even know what the blood god is. How can you believe? Firelight writhed on his face. Jealousy sank deep into shadow, leaving only a chilly, restrained smile. We are a cult, not a sect. Until you believe in the blood god, you cannot enter. He savored each word, a connoisseur of refusal. First, you'll be taught a branch technique, the bloodbane art. It will lay groundwork for the sacred arts. When you become a true brother of the cult, a protector will grant you the divine techniques. Kaelan paused, then cupped his fists. Thank you, Branch Master Garvan. Garvan waved them off like flies. Go, you'll get an extra chicken leg tonight, as a token of recognition. Night fell. The hut's oil lamp had shriveled to a pea-sized flame, wrestling the cold draft seeping through the window cracks. Its weak halo barely lit a palm's width, only casting Lowen's hunched shadow on the table, spine faintly arched, shoulders tight, as if asleep, or bristling in fake sleep. Snowlight filtered through the plank gaps and fell Bluke, old on his shoulders. Kaelan sat on the bed's edge, watching that back. He'd always taken the bed while Lowen slumped at the table. He'd thought nothing of it. Nobody forced you to sleep there. But now it was different. Lowen had started talking, cracked open that cold shell. There was no excuse to let him sleep on the table tonight. He stood. His rough hand reached out. The oil lamp guttered violently. Shadows dragged a trembling arc across Lowen's back. Kaelan's hand stopped just above his shoulder, rough knuckles catching the snow, light, dried blood crusted in the cracks like rust. If you're done scowling, why still sprawled over the table? His voice scraped out, flattened by the frozen night. Get in the bed. Lowen's wrist snapped back. The sleeve stirred a whisper of air. Kaelan's fingertips grazed the coarse cloth, catching nothing. He let his hand drop, snorted. What's with the pride? You're not in your private, outer sect quarters. Tight quarters mean squeezing up. What, you plan to hunch over that table all night? Lowen's tone was ice. I don't share a bed. What if the other person's a woman? Lowen looked him up and down, eyes lingering on the centipede scar across his face. A cold smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. Do you realize you've got a scar now? Makes you look vicious. If you were a woman, you'd be so hideous, I'd kick you right out the door, if you were offered to me. Kaelan didn't bite. He raised a hand and touched his own cheek. The scar started at the cheekbone and cut diagonally to the ear, the flesh puckered and hardened. Rough to the touch. A shard of tile in the Zhao village fire. Never treated. Turned into a scar, sure enough. Scar's good. He dropped his hand, voice flat, like he was talking about someone else. Reminds me what I need to do. Lowen narrowed his phoenix eyes. The lamp glow was dim, flickering across the side of his face as he leaned against the headboard. Those eyes caught the shifting light like paired blades. Fine. Kaelan turned toward the wooden table. You take the bed. I'll take the table. Lowen's irritation stalled, a fist swinging through empty air. He blinked. What's this sudden change? The whole journey here you sprawled on the bed like a king and never once asked after me. Back then, I figured I didn't owe you anything. You gave me a cold shoulder. Why should I press? Now that's all behind us. No great ability, but plenty of temper. Takes one to know one. Kaelan waved him off and dropped onto a stool by the table. Go sleep. I'll flip through this thing. From inside his shirt, he drew the Bloodbane art manual. The characters on the cover gleamed a dull red in the lamplight. Lowen didn't move, still slumped against the headboard, watching him. What? Kaelan didn't look up. Don't tell me you won't lie where I've been. What a fussy bastard. Lowen said nothing. He ignored Kaelan, leaning back, gaze settling on the booklet. That earlier smirk crept back, tinged with schadenfreude. No need to be too discouraged. Getting the Bloodbane art is decent enough. Kaelan glanced up. You know it. It has a reputation. Given out by the blood god, cults inner ranks to those who have earned merit and need to get battle. Ready fast. True, it advances quick. From the jealous looks you'd get, you'd think it's something fine. Lowen paused, a twist in his voice. Of course, if they're handing it to outer thugs, there's a limit to how fine it can be. Kaelan was quiet a moment, then slid the manual toward Lowen. You want it? How generous. Lowen's phoenix eyes widened a fraction. You earned it with your merit. Just give it away. The cult's no place of virtue. Our fates are tied now. Stick together or get picked off, Kaelan sighed. What does it matter whose merit it is? Lowen studied him. The jeering amusement slowly drained away. The oil lamp crackled. Flame rippled in his pupils. It's not forbidden to share. But Hall Master Fang already has it in for you. This could be a test. Watch yourself, Lowen's voice dropped. Besides, my core cultivation is already set. This is useless to me. What I truly need is the Luo family's inherited art, passed father to son. I'll need to get back to the Luo Manor ruins. Hope no one's dug it up yet. He paused, then added, if you want to learn this shoddy heart method of mine, it's not that I'm stingy. You can have it. But your age isn't right for orthodox internal arts. Likely you're better suited to Bloodbane art. Kaelan didn't push further. He bent over the first page. Traditional characters, vertical script, inked in a rushed hand. The lamplight was a veil. But he could see. The night eyes from the thing on his nape made every character knife sharp. He could even trace the fiber lines in the rough paper. Bloodbane art. No internal breath cultivation. Meridians ignored, Danshan bypassed. The self's blood and vital Kai become the furnace. Draw baleful energy into sinew and bone. Surging blood births power, boiling blood forges momentum. At the deepest level, you can invert a foe's bloodstream and rupture every vessel. Death by internal blood break. Kaelan raked the preamble with his gaze, burned the key principles into his skull, then shut the book and walked to a corner of the room. Horse stance. This body's foundation was solid. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, thighs dense with muscle. He settled into the stance, rooted and steady. Eyes closed, he regulated his breathing, let his center of gravity sink to the hips. 10 breaths. His thighs began to tremble. 30 breaths. Shaking like a sifter, beads of sweat rolling off his brow, along the orbital bone, down to the tip of his nose. A drop smacked the packed, dirt floor, cratering with a tiny puff of dust. 60 breaths. Every bone in his body creaked. knees like hot iron wedged in the joints. Every extra second was a dull blade sawing meat. Sweat plastered his eyelids. Gold flecks swam in his vision. Jaw locked. Not a sound. Then, above, the sky ignited. The entire roof of the shack split open. Not truly. It was a pillar of gold light crashing from deep within the void, piercing through the roof, through the beams, through wood and thatch alike, bathing the room in noonday glare. Kaelan's eyes snapped open. Pupils shrank to pinpricks. The gold light coalesced into huge, hanging script, suspended in the air. Tongues of blue flame licked along the edges of each character, crackling. The radiance was so raw, so searing, that a single glance drove needles straight into his eyeballs. Tears flooded unbidden, but he stared unblinking. The words blazed in the air. Eryndra pursued blood god Cult's Caspian for 1,300 lie, took his head at Dragon's End Cliff. The realm shook. The hidden dragon rankings reordered. Eryndra now second. The characters burned for 3 breaths, then collapsed inward, crumbling to golden dust that scattered into the night. The shack fell back into shadow. The lamp's flame, nearly smothered, trembled back to life. Kaelan hit the floor, gasping. Lowen didn't flinch. He leaned against the headboard, his voice light. That is the Chaos Chronicle. It records the world's great events. The hidden dragon rankings list only the finest under 30. Anyone in the top 3, barring catastrophe, will become a grandmaster. Kaelan's voice came out hoarse. She killed Caspian. Lowen gave a quiet grunt. She went in alone. Seems so. Kaelan said nothing. Then he drove a fist into the ground. Dust puffed up, catching on his scar, another stroke to the dark red centipede. Lowen understood his worry and spoke calmly. One battle, known across the world. Now those who want her dead will outnumber Caspian's followers. That's the Jiang who... Kaelan didn't answer. A hand landed on his shoulder, 2 heavy claps. Lowen had slipped off the bed, silent, and now stood beside him. The hand was all knuckles and joints, its pressure like the back of a knife against his shoulder blade. Lowen looked down at him, the corner of his mouth pulling. Starting late means nothing. Surviving, that's the hard part. Kaelan looked up. The oil lamp lit Lowen's face from below, carving its lines sharp. He laughed sudden. Lowen's mouth flattened. What? You're smiling more and more. Lowen's expression shifted. The warmth guttered like a doused candle, wiped clean in an instant. His phoenix eyes narrowed, a cold light flickering. He turned and walked back to the bed, face rigid. Not another word. Kaelan's gaze followed his back, then fixed on the hand as it settled once more on the bed frame. The next morning, a rough ceramic bowl hit the wooden table with a dull thud. The Watu were gray, brown, their surfaces dense with bran. Kaelan picked one up. The texture felt like coarse sand against his fingertips. He bit down. Dry crumbs shattered between his teeth. Cold grit scraped down his throat, tugging a dull ache. He frowned and turned to the window. Vast snow glare stung his eyes. Wind lashed the wooden walls, muffled thumps filling the room like the ragged breath of this crumbling compound. Lowen leaned against the opposite bed frame, nibbling slow, his Adam's apple bobbing with each swallow. Deep winter. Having food at all is a mercy. His voice was thinner than the wind and snow, as if afraid of waking something. Last night's chicken leg, God knows how many eyes, it's set burning. Kaelan's hand paused midair. His gaze dropped back to the grey lump of Watu in his bowl, suddenly feeling its weight. In these chaotic times, that mouthful of rough grain was a gift that kept him breathing. But a hollow chill twisted through his gut. Bloodbane art forged his bones and sinews, demanding flesh and blood to fuel it. A few cold, hard bites a day, and within a week his body would collapse. To survive, he needed meat. To get meat, he'd likely have to steal it. He lowered his eyes, fingers unconsciously tightening on the bowl's rim until the knuckles showed white. The wind hit harder. Neither spoke. Silence settled, heavy and thick, broken only by the slow sounds of chewing and the occasional glance that touched and flicked away, crossing in the cold air.